You're watching the Prepared Mind Network, so get prepared for one hell of a show.
Have you any idea how successful censorship is on TV? Don't know the answer? Successful, isn't it?
I know we can do this together because I know this. There's nothing beyond our capacity.
Well, everybody, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. Red shirt, big emergency right now, folks. Now, this morning, I did the Zero Dark 30 and said, hey, we really don't have any false flags to worry about, do we? Hey, we don't have any black swans to worry about, do we? Or do we? Oh, I tell you what, we have a lot to talk about. A lot of things to worry about, in my opinion. On the one hand, I could go, hey, we got nothing to worry about. But it seems like every day actually has a black swan level event going on. Truly, folks, the amount of stupid things being done by the left, the provocative and perverse reactions of leftists is incredible. Now, get this. Let's just start light. Oh, by the way, if you've got questions, get them into the comments in all caps, all capitalization for comments. Why? Because Uman is tied up for the moment. He'll be on his way in, I believe, but for the time being, it's just me. Just me. So do all caps, help a brother out, and we'll roll on from here. Now, folks, the hags, and they are hags, from The View, Governor Gavin Gruesome Newsom, and Democrat pundits across the media spectrum are all having a worry hissy fit today. What are they worried about? They're worried about third-party candidates. Folks, this is interesting. The only third-party candidate I'm aware of is RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK assassinated by Sirhan Sirhan, JFK assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald, if you buy that sack of shit. I don't buy that sack of shit. Anyways, RFK Jr. is thinking of running. And a lot of people thought he was going to take Republican votes because, he's all mild-mannered and he thinks that the Jim Jones juice is bad. Well, it turns out he's just as sick and radically left as most of Washington, D.C. It's just he doesn't like the Jim Jones juice. That's all. That's about the only difference. Now, what do they have to? No, not what. Not who. Who, what? RFK. Who else could be a third-party candidate to run against Biden? Well, if Biden doesn't step down, would Michelle Robinson Obama? I put a hyphen in there because, I'm modern that way. Michelle Robinson Obama. Would she run as a third-party candidate? Wouldn't she just stomp the ever-loving shit out of Biden? Well, of course. But how many people would vote Biden because they just vote Democrat and they vote the first box they see with a D in front of it? There is some serious shit going on here, I'm telling you. Serious shit. They're going to have a hard time stealing this election unless the Democrats get some unity in their party. You would think that after all these years, the Democrats, with all their anti-America, anti-right-wing, anti-freedom, anti-children, everything, anti-gun, would be unified. But in fact, they're also tearing themselves apart. They're tearing themselves apart. By the way, Heidi, I got the arnica today. Thank you. The Democrats are tearing themselves apart. They hate America, and, well, that means they need to hate the president and Congress, and they're doing that. They're boycotting, picketing, protesting, harassing, insulting, interrupting Joe Biden. 90 proof Nancy. Remember when I called her that? 90 proof Nancy. Harassing the shit out of her in public at her home. Joe Biden getting harassed in Delaware when he's on his vacations, at the White House, trying to break down the gate. The Democrats are falling apart. So, Mr. Uman is in the house. He will now take your questions. We've got, if you still want to use all caps to say, hey, this is a question for John, go ahead and put them in. Anyways, Uman, I'm glad you showed up. I was getting worried, man. I was going to send out the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to look for you. Once again, folks, the Prepared Mind staff busting their ass all day long, just like you guys, trying to make ends meet. Well, now, in response to my opinion that the Democrats are tearing themselves apart, a hero has risen amongst the Democrats. She holds her head like a good communist, high, to look important, like she's gazing past the horizon, past the sun, into the future. Who am I talking about? None other than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That's right, the bitch who can eat an apple through a picket fence and she won't get a splinter in those lips because she's got the horse teeth. Anyways, AOC could unify the Democrat Party. Maybe not. But this is what she is urging Biden, urging the Democrats to do in order to defeat Trump. You know what they need to do? They need to make abortion a frontline voting issue and say, look, we're going to codify, we're going to make it a statute that you have a right to go get an abortion. So in order to defeat Trump, folks, the Democrats now have a political platform, something that they all believe in. And their platform starts with killing babies. Vote for Biden. He likes to kill babies. What the fuck are these people thinking? Well, we got to be careful, folks. You've got to be careful. Truly. We've got nothing but trouble, folks. Now, the problem is around the world, though. It is not just America. Understand that. We worry about Russia invading us. We worry about China invading us because we're so weak politically, militarily now. But the rest of the world is also having trouble. Now, Russia, for all the attempts to destroy it, is as strong as ever. China is more in debt than ever. Just understand that. Now, in Brazil, they're showing us that they're just as fucked up as the United States. The former president of Brazil, before being replaced by a communist felon, was Bolsonaro. His son is now a victim of a federal police raid by the communists' police force. And also, in addition to his son, which would be like Donald Trump Jr. being raided, 2 of Bolsonaro's deputies, in other words, his administration, are also being targeted in a federal police raid investigation. That smells just like Biden's America, does it not? Where if you're a parent and you're concerned about your children, then you're a domestic terrorist. If you're a protester concerned about a stolen election, you're an insurrectionist. And if you think the southern border should be sealed off, then you're a bigoted, racist, Mexiphobe. I'm telling you. Wow. I can't. You guys put up the weirdest shit in the comments while I'm talking. I'm going to turn that off. All right. Now, I said America isn't the only broken country. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Ukraine as it inches closer and closer and closer to having to proclaim defeat. They've run out of ammo, artillery. They don't have an air force. They don't have a drone army. They don't have jack shit. All they have is lukewarm bodies being pushed to the front line where they piss themselves and then get shot. Now, there's an old joke, right, about World War II when the Germans are fighting the Russians and they're running out of ammo. They're running out of guns. They're running out of everything. And so, right, the German high command, he says, all right, just get out there and go bang, 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 bang. And pretend like you have a gun. And he goes, well, what if my pretend gun runs out of ammo, General? Because he doesn't want to go to the front lines, right? And hear that. And the general goes, look, the Russians are out of ammo too. He says, well, if you run out of fake ammo, use your fake knife and go stabbity, stab, 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 stab. And we can win this war on the Eastern Front in World War II. So the German says, all right. And he takes that information back to his guys in the field, right? And the Russians are coming. The Russians are coming across the field of battle. And they all stand up and they go bang, 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 bang. But the Russians keep coming. They keep coming. And they're like, holy cow, we can't stop them with our pretend rifles. So then they say, fix bayonets, right? And they fix their bayonets on their rifle. And they're like, stabbity, stab, stabbity, stab, stabbity, stab. And the last thing they hear is the Russians bowl over the top of them is tankety tank, tankety tank, tankety tank. You know, so they've got jack shit, in other words, in Ukraine. I've wanted to tell that joke for like 10 years. Finally popped out today. Anyways, not only does Russia have an interest in Ukraine, but so does Poland, Romania, and Hungary. Apparently, they all have territorial ambitions. That is to say, claims of ownership to parts of Ukraine. And Ukraine is collapsing, absolutely collapsing. It's not just Russia, Russia, Russia. Other countries are licking their chops that Ukraine is going to collapse and they're going to divide it into pieces. Wasn't Poland the one pushing Ukraine to keep fighting at all costs, spend all they have, go, go, go? Could it have been so that Poland can assist Ukraine by taking part of its territories back? Don't put anything past any of these people, folks. Democrat leftists are idiots, and they're coming at us. Tankety tank, tankety tank, tankety tank. They don't have real intellect, folks, but boy, do they have a lot of stupid shit on their side. Anyways, let's stick it around in Europe a little bit more. In Amsterdam, well, Amsterdam has fallen. They need to make a movie on this one. The Dutch mayor, and I'm not even going to mention her name, and the picture I saw of her looks like she used to work in the red light district, but not in the high dollar side. Anyways, the Dutch mayor wants to decriminalize the sale of and use of cocaine. She says that the war on drugs is, quote, perverse and counterproductive. I want to ask you guys this. Have you seen pictures and video footage of American cities like Philadelphia, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, New York, Chicago, Milwaukee, Detroit, where drug addicts are literally laying in the streets in bombed out, cooked. They're destroyed mentally and physically from drugs. Whether it's fucking meth or whatever they're taking, they're just cooked. They're done. This is what drugs do to you. Now, You listen to me. I talk to you guys all the time. I take alcohol. And you can tell how it has destroyed me, right? Oh, wait, no, I'm not destroyed. There's a difference between alcohol and all these other drugs. I do think that THC has great medicinal benefits, by the way. But drugs like meth, crack, cocaine, opium, heroin, they will cook your fucking brains. It's funny how lunatics call rules that are in place that protect people as well as morality. She calls that perverse. I mean, what comes next? Is she going to suggest pedophilia is good and that it is perverse to oppose it? Folks, the political left, they practically want themselves destroyed. Now, in Amsterdam and everywhere else in Europe, do you think that the Muslim populations are going to allow their people to get hooked on the nastiest drugs and destroy themselves? Or is that against the Quran? You know the answer. Not all of them will stay off it, but most of them will do what the Quran says because they know that the warlords will kill them eventually if they get onto drugs. What a world. I'm telling you, what a world. Now, let's move back to America. And I hope you're getting your questions down below for Mr. Uman. Thank you guys for showing up every single day, talking about this live with me. Ultimately, folks, hundreds and thousands of people listen to these messages every day. So your questions, your comments, your thoughts matter. They matter. Let me tell you what's happening here, folks. The left is incredibly powerful, are they not? But they are incredibly perverse and fucked up also. The defense team for President Trump is going to ask for a new trial over the E. Jean Carroll $83 million case for defamation. Now, if someone said, hey, look, you defamed John at the Prepared Mind. You said some shit about him that just wasn't true. And so we want money for that. The defense would say, well, how much does John make? And how much was he actually injured and kept from making more because of the allegations? Right. And they'd be going, they're like, well, okay, times 10. John gets $10,000. Right. Are you telling me that E. Jean Carroll, that she's worth, that her good name is worth 83 million? No one ever heard of her until this. Anyways, there's a problem. There are too many connections to the judge. Judge Kaplan. Get this. Get these connections. E. Jean Carroll's attorney is also named Kaplan, right? Carroll's other lead counsel previously served as Judge Kaplan's clerk. And Judge Kaplan co-officiated her wedding. Would this be political incest or would it be judicial incest? Either way, it's perverted and incestuous. The relationship Judge Kaplan has to the lead counsel who shares his name and a working history, as well as the co-counsel, E. Jean Carroll's other lawyer. I can't make this shit up, folks. Is this setting us all up for a huge future black swan, false flag, or to get us to accept? Is it predictive programming to get us to accept this sort of politically, judicially, governmental incest where there's this layer of people at the top that all protect each other and stick up for each other while everyone else suffers under their heavy-fisted hand? Like this, for example. You've heard about the pipe bomber from January 6th, have you not? Way back in 2021, the night before the big insurrection, which nobody talked about, wasn't planned, and no one was part of, well, except the government. The night before, there was a pipe bomber who planted a pipe bomb. Guess what? He is they know who it is. They've released that they know who it is, and he is a former government official. The FBI knew who he was. They had his license plate number, and the FBI refused to interview him. So understand this. He is a government contractor now. He's a private snitch or an agent provocateur for the FBI. Kind of like they tried doing, by the way, to Master Sergeant Brown, Army Green Beret, retired combat veteran, decorated, who the FBI tried getting him to be a contractor, a snitch, and an agent provocateur, but he declined. So they fucking arrested him for it. He exposed them, and so they invented evidence. That's a felony. It's a felony, folks, creating false evidence to use against someone in court. Why the fuck are the FBI agents responsible for that evidence? Why aren't they being tried? It's unfucking believable, folks. It really is. It's unfucking believable. Yet, here we are. Are you prepared? At some point, they could pull the pin on the grenade and kerplow. Right in your lap. Thank you, government. I'm glad you're on my side. Now, earlier, and this is big news, we discussed Ilhan Omar, who was holding a political rally up in Minnesota in her district. And she is from Somalia. And she said, hey, she's in U.S. Congress representing Somalia and her Muslim faith. And she talked a bunch of anti-American trash as usual. And she thought no one could understand her language, except people there recorded it, translated it, and discovered that essentially she was spouting a lot of anti-American shit. The fact that she's allowed into our country, was granted American citizenship, allowed to run as a congressperson, was elected, was seated, and allowed to make anti-Semitic and also retarded remarks for years in Congress. She's been given all that, and nobody has done anything to this Jihad Squad member. Well, guess what? Today, Ron DeSantis joined a chorus of people, only he went a few steps further. He said Ilhan Omar needs to be expelled, kicked out of Congress. But not just that. She also needs to have her American citizenship revoked. And then she needs to be deported back to the shithole from which she came. Now, in my opinion, DeSantis is 100% harsh as fuck. Stripping citizenship, folks, is the same as the old-fashioned banishment from your city, your town, your family, your tribe. To be exiled. To be sent out into the world, and you have to go to another town or place where they're going to ask about you. Well, who are you? Where you're from? What's your family name? Why should we trust you? Why should we give you a place to stay, food to eat, a job? Why should we trust you? That's what this is essentially the same as. That's the punishment when you strip someone of their citizenship and exile them. It's for everything. It's the best punishment for everything short of actual treason, which is what this bitch of a tart has done. And guess what? I think he is 100% correct in making this demand. Strip her citizenship. Too fucking bad. You're done. And banish her out of the country forever. Because she is just short of being treasonous. Now, that said, I think the current president, Joe Biden, who makes a claim to be everything to everyone at any time, and lies about everything every fucking day. Are you prepared for this to get out of control? Out of control. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to go here now. Our country is out of absolute fucking control, folks. An airport sign was spotted at an airport here in America. And it basically describes how illegal aliens are allowed to fly on American airplanes. At the same time, folks, we're getting warnings from government institutions and former federal law enforcement officials. They were officials. They're like, hey, we got a huge threat of terror in this country. And folks, other flyers, Americans who are reading these signs are pissed off. Now, specifically, this sign states that the TSA, that is the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA is working with Customs and Border Protection, CBP. The TSA is working with the CBP to, quote, validate adult non-U.S. citizen travel documentation when the traveler does not have any form of identification. Once again, quote, the TSA is working with the Border Patrol to, quote, validate adult non-U.S. citizen travel documentation when the traveler does not otherwise have an acceptable form of identification. No picture ID, no ID at all. So how is the TSA going to work with Border Patrol to prove that the person getting on the plane is who they claim that they are, even though they have zero documentation that's verifiable, picture ID, or anything? Criminal invaders, please step aboard the plane. Place your AKs and RPGs in overhead storage compartments during the flight and leave them there or until you're ready to take over the plane. And to the American taxpayers who are standing in line, waiting for TSA to try and stick a finger in their ass or some other orifice, fuck you, American taxpayers, is what they're saying. Unbelievable. Unfucking believable. Wow. All right, I hope you've got your questions in. I'm going to give you two more hard-hitting stories, and then I'm going to roll into your thoughts. Israel, folks. The defense minister for the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. The defense minister has said that troop deployment to the Lebanese border is imminent. They're going to take the fight to the Lebanese border. That is going to piss off Hezbollah. But more importantly, I wanted everyone in the world of Bibles to listen up here and pay attention. The word apocalypse means to reveal. It's a revelation, apocalypse, to reveal. The word Armageddon is actually a specific place on a geographic map. And I think north of Israel, isn't that where Armageddon is on the maps? Someone help out. Seriously. If they go fight in North Israel, I think that's where Armageddon actually was. Now, that was just kind of a little bit of an aside, but also get ready because more is coming. Apparently, King Bibi, Benjamin Netanyahu, does not want to proclaim victory over Gaza than face the political fallout that he was dealing with before the IDF allowed themselves to be invaded by a bunch of ding-dong Hamas jackasses. Now, that said, agents, top secret squirrel agents for the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, decided they were going to dress as Palestinian women and Palestinian doctors. That's right, folks. The IDF has Israeli women in their combat forces. And they dressed as regular Palestinian women and Palestinian doctors, and they raided a hospital wearing these garments, and they killed 3 Hamas gunmen. Now, folks, in my book, Israel has now officially, in my book, they have now officially broken the rules of war by not wearing military uniforms to help identify them as enemy combatants to those they face. That said, Hamas and Palestinian terror supporters are brain dead, since that's exactly what they do every day and what every terrorist does. They claim that Gaza and Palestine is a country and that Hamas is the government. Well, if that's the case, then they should be wearing uniforms so they can be easily identified. Nope. It's funny, folks. The Palestinian terror lovers are pissed off that Israel tricked them. So terrorists, I ask this, how does it feel to be ambushed and slaughtered by somebody you had no idea it was coming? They had no idea this was coming, that these were Jewish women. What does that say? What does that say about the way people look? Well, I guess you can't judge a book by its cover in Gaza. Maybe the Palestinian men were like, hey, take a look at those cute Gazanians. They're hot. I love a chic Palestinian woman when she shaves her mustache off. Now, ambushed and slaughtered. Americans, are you ready for our own ambushes by non-uniformed terrorists in 2024, 2025, 2026, and beyond? Because if you think that Donald Trump, who gets elected president, can stand up and go, okay, all you illegals out there, I see you all. You are now to march down to the southern border in GTFO. This is not your house. They're not going to listen. It is as bad as they might feel being political targets of angry Americans who are tired of them. Their life here is more than likely way better than it is back in that sand-colored desert shithole from which they came. And folks, that is it for my monologue. Let's see what you want to talk about. I tell you, it's too fucking stupid Tuesday. And here we are. Literally, here we are. Okay, Mr. Uman, let's do some questions. Uman said he got a video about the IDF. Great code there. Great code. Terrific. Oh, boy, I tell you. Sorry about that. Just got in a message. Lots of crying about not playing by the rules. Let's back that up, Mr. Uman. I missed the rest of the first. Got a video about the IDF guys going into a hospital dressed as doctors and nurses. I just talked about this. And deleting ham-ass gunmen. The comments were crying about war crimes and the poor gunmen. Oh, wait, before we switch. The people in the comments, and they can be from other countries. People around the world can use the internet, read American media propaganda, and then put comments down below. usually, or sometimes you can tell if their English isn't too good. You know, they don't they don't savvy English too good. You can tell they're foreigners. But still, I'm sure there were many American leftist scumbag crybabies that were upset that Hamas gunmen got killed. Right? They're crying about war crimes and the poor gunmen. War crimes. The exact same thing Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, ICE, and every other terror group does. They don't wear uniforms. They sneak up and they fucking kill you when you're not looking. And the poor gunmen, oh, poor little terrorists. They got killed when they weren't ready for it. As far as I'm concerned, folks, Israel has actually now committed an act of terror. An act of terror. All right, Mr. Uman, what do you got? What's the next one? Lots of crying about not playing by the rules. Oh, wow. You mean Israel, their military, basically, folks, they committed, this is spy. This is statecraft. Not dressing as a military person, going into another area and killing the guys you don't like. That's spy versus spy shit. The idiots seem to keep forgetting who started the fight. Well, now that's a fucking statement right there, man. Who started this fight? Well, the Jews have been around for somewhere around, is it 3,500 years? And there haven't been any Muslims prior to 800 AD. So the Jews were here first, and then along came the Quran and Muslims. So I don't know who started the fight, but it's been going on for a while. Thank you, Uman. Wow, yeah, well, the Christians got in the fight in the 1200s. Good golly, what a mess. Okay, who is up next? What do we want to talk about? Mr. Uman, it is Barking Wolf Spider. And he says, Black Swan? Nah, more like a giant federal turkey. I don't think of it, the federal government, as an eagle nor a phoenix. I certainly don't think of them as turkeys. I think of the federal government more like vultures. Vultures, folks, picking at people's flesh. That's what I think. But yeah, how about a black vulture from a federal Washington, D.C.? That sounds right. I like that. That sounds right. Good golly. All right. Thank you, Barking with Swider. Yeah, we're going to get something. I don't care what flavor it is, right? It's going to be fetid, rotten meat, what they're going to offer us. Kind of like, being told, oh, you'll eat bugs and you'll like it. We're going to eat their shit, and they tell us we're going to have to like it. You'll own nothing and like it. You'll have no rights, and you'll be happy. You'll eat the bugs, and you'll be healthy. You'll take your Jim Jones juice, and you'll be immune. Everything is backwards. Backwards it is. Okay, up next, Chin Music. He says, it's in the Valley of Megiddo. Is that now, I don't know for sure, Mr. Chin Music, and I'm not making fun of anybody. It's probably been 20 to 25 years since I looked up this little bit of information. Armageddon, if I remember correctly, the literal geographic location is at a crossroads. It's at a crossroads of some kingdoms, and the armies were going to meet there in battle. That was part of the prophetic vision of John of Atmos. Shit, boy, I tell you, pardon me, forgive me for not getting that right fast enough. Island, the John who went down in the cave, John who wrote the book of Revelations, not this one, went down in an island in a cave that had volcanic fumes coming out of it. So you probably get a little stoned in there, right? Came up with the visions in the book of Revelations, just so people understand a little about that as well. Crazy world, folks. But Chin says, hey, it's the Valley of Megiddo. Armageddon. There you have it. I wonder if that's the same exact one. Wouldn't surprise me. People got some long memories in that part of the world. right? My great, 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 1 hour later, great, 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 2 days later, great, great, great grandfather. Man says the Mount of Megiddo is in northern Israel, is not actually a mountain, but a tell, a mound or hill created by many generations of people living and rebuilding on the same spot. So we've got a mount in the middle of the valley where roads come together. Got it. And everybody wants to build on that high ground, which is probably, I have no idea how tall it is. I guess that's coming next. Thank you, Mr. Uman. And, once again, I'm not making fun of the Bible. I know that this shit matters to people. A lot of people put stock in what is said by men who are not Jesus, men who are weak, men who sin, and lies are part of those sins where they mistranslate, retranslate, and intentionally change things in the Bible. So how can you trust it? To the degree that you trust it. I know that there's a lot of faith in all this stuff. But I believe that the gift of fact and truth is that which we can prove, and to have discernment, that is to say wisdom, to see the truth and see the lies and understand what it is that we can do. We can get prepared, and we understand freedom and liberty, and that is worth fighting for. All right. You don't have to forgive me for that. Little slip into the world of some sort of philosophical angle. Mr. Uman, where are we going next? And it's chin music. He says, you have no chance in a courtroom full of liberals. Justice is wrecked in our country, and that one a leftist wet dream since the 1960s. Well, we're in really big trouble. The country, in fact, let me say this. I mean, if you think we're in trouble now, what do you think we were in 1861? This country was in peril. The United States of America was in peril because the President of the United States, over 150 years ago, it is farther in distance to go back 150 years ago to 1861 than it was to go from the time of the Constitution to 1861, which was 1789 to 1861, essentially 75 years. We're more than double that, over 150 years since 1861. Am I right on that? Correct, yes. So, President Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, had his political enemies arrested, silenced the free press, that is to say media, freedom of speech. He arrested his political foes and enemies. And then the army, the U.S. Army, it went down south and burned half of fucking Georgia. And all manner of just incredibly hostile actions were taken. But today would be considered war crimes and crimes against humanity. That's how long the United States of America lasted, folks. The America that we dream of. Wet dream, if you will, Mr. Chin Music. It was 75 years, thereabouts, that America lived the dream of freedom, where Americans did not pay an income tax. An America where you, as a citizen, could have the same quality of self-defense as the military. Pistol, rifle, shotgun, cannon, tank, whatever they had, you as a citizen could own it. You did not have to give proof of anything to a government official when they asked for it. It's like, you're going to arrest me? You better know who I am and what I've done. You better have a valid warrant. You better have the facts. You can't make shit up. Not to say there wasn't courtroom injustice back then, but hey, back then, nobody paid property taxes. See where I'm going with this? That was a free America. That was a free America. And we almost lost it, folks, in 1861. But by the time we got to 1871, the country changed significantly with the new United States Constitution. They did a couple of minor changes for us, folks. They incorporated Washington, D.C. And rather than a national government, we came out of the Civil War with a federal government. Instead of having a free economy, we ended up with a fascist economy. Look it up, folks. Figure out what fascism is. And then look at where we're at today. It is now naked fascism with mega corporations, mega banks, mega wealthy people, the elite. They get away with literally fucking murder, bribery, extortion, smuggling drugs, money, everything. Hey, Hunter Biden, do you fit any of those? Anyways, the leftist wet dream has come true. The socialist wet dream, if we want to go and give it a more firm name. Thank you, Chin Music, very much for setting me off into that course. I would like to get our original Constitution back in place, our republic restored 100%, where the government is not entitled to a percentage of your money or a percentage of your property, where your car is yours and you don't have to send anything to the government to ask permission to travel. Name Redacted says, what a choice. Fucked. What a choice. You're fucked if you act and you're doomed if you don't. Well, I tell you what, here's what I say. And you're right. The typical phrase, folks, for those of you not up with Name Redacted's swiftest Americus accentus, is damned if you do, damned if you don't. He's made it fucked if you do and doomed if you don't. Now, I would rather live my life and die at the end of it as an actor, meaning I took action. I went and walked my path. I went my way, whether you say path or way, to live my life as free as possible by my own terms, and therefore dying by my own terms. I'd rather do that than to try and kiss the boots. Kiss the boots that if I don't kiss them, will step on my neck and squeeze the air out of my passageway. That's what government does. If it's not kicking your face, it wants to step on your neck until you obey it and every edict and demand they have. It's a choice, though. Would you rather live as a man and be free? Or would you rather die as a slave, trying to please an insufferable master? I think I said that very well. These fucking people in power. They think they're in power. They are in a very unenviable position to earn themselves fistfuls of hot lead. All right, let's continue if we shall. Thank you, Name Redacted. We've got Uman. He says, there was also a big bust in Queens. I saw her. She was enormous. There was a big bust in Queens where an assault 3D printer, it made ghost guns and IEDs were seized. And an IED is an improvised explosive device. The names did not sound like Make America Great Again extremist types. They also had anarchist reading materials. What did they have? The anarchist cookbook? The anarchist cookbook, folks, was actually published, I believe, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. A friend of mine bought a copy in the 80s to see what all the hoopla was about. Essentially, it tells you how to make shitty explosives and flammables, like a Molotov cocktail. If you want to be a good IED maker from scratch, you need to go to college. You need to learn real math, get into college, a good one, take real chemistry, and somehow get your hands on books on how to make explosives. Now, if you're not good at math and you take that class and get those books, you'll probably blow yourself up in a fucking lab. In fact, for everyone who is a leftist, a liberal, a communist, a socialist, a Democrat, I recommend trying to make fulminated mercury on your first attempt. Be sure and make 5 pounds of it at a time. All right, Mr. Uman, what do you got? Being completely facetious here. Fulminated mercury is pressure sensitive. If you drop it, it'll explode. So you can imagine one little mistake in a lab and someone becomes a red painting. Mikey G steps in and says, blue jeans and bandana, terrorist uniforms. That's, I mean, hell, shit, we could all get in trouble. I'm going to have to wear flip-flops and no bandana. That's really, everything is their uniform. Very good, Mikey G. Thank you for that. Now you know what to look for. I say, look for somebody in America who is screaming in not English very awful things about our country. There's a terrorist. Look at somebody who's wearing a bandana or a scarf, a hat, and sunglasses, and is shouting words in English that make no fucking sense. That just might be a terrorist. All right, let us continue forward if we shall. Oh, I've got some more stuff to talk about, but you guys are being very active today. Uman says, Illinois is also having an election boards meeting to decide if they will put Trump on the ballot. The complainants or plaintiffs say the evidence is clear that he tried to start an insurrection. I think I caught the end of this, Uman. I believe Illinois has said, no, Trump is going to be on the ballot. Petition denied, unless they started another petition. I'm sure they're going to continue to try this. It keeps getting gunned down. It got gunned down in Massachusetts yesterday or over the weekend. It got shot down by numerous courts around the country. I believe California didn't even try. They're just like, fuck it, we're not going to kick him off the ballot because it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Their evidence isn't evidence. You can't look to the January 6th committee, which was bullshit, and say, they concluded that President Trump, no, it's bullshit. Now, Chin Music says, man, they're completely invested in this bullshit, and they will never stop until they are stopped. Those days are coming, Chin Music. I think I just mentioned something about a handful of hot lead a few minutes ago. I think hot lead will be good bed warmers if your bed is a coffin. Those days are coming. They are. I'd rather live free than to die as a slave. And that's precisely what communists want. If they get full power, folks, if we do not stop them, if we allow them to take the power, create an efficient communist killing machine, they will go door to door and round up people. And they'll say, do you want to be a communist slave? Or do you want to die free right now with a bullet to the back of your head? That's how communists do it, folks. That's how Nazis did it. That's how Chairman Mao did it. They would take you out of your house. First, they would make sure you gave them anything of wealth and value from the house. Then they would march you to a ditch, a mass grave. because they don't want to shoot you in your house. They don't want to shoot you on your front porch. They might shoot you in the street, but then they got to lift your body up and carry it into a truck or carry it to the ditch. They would march people to a ditch. A lot of times they'd make them dig their own graves and stand in front of them and then shoot them. That way the bad guys, the communists, the socialists, because that's what they are, they're socialists. They would do all that, then shoot you in cold blood, meaning you had committed no crime, except the state, the government, decided that you should die because you didn't believe what they said you should do. All right, let us continue. I don't mean to be so macabre or so cold in all this. I'm getting waved off there. What is this, Uman? Okay. I don't mean to be so, but this is where we're at. This is really where we're at. I got you. That's what I thought that was. Okay, Mr. Uman, thank you. Gotcha. This is just where we're at in the world. This is where we're at in history. Understand this. I was talking to a guy from South Dakota today, and then I also met a guy from Eastern Europe, and he didn't want to tell me what country. I said, dude, I couldn't give a fuck if you're a Ukrainian or a Russian. I don't give a shit. I said, I just want to talk to you and ask you some questions. The guy refused. Anyways, the guy from South Dakota, he's all the way down south here. It's way further south than South Dakota. You're not safe in South Dakota. I think that's why he's down south. You're not safe in North Dakota. You're not safe in Montana. Recently, the Montana CPS, CPS is Child Protective Services. The Child Protective Services of Montana went to the home of a teenage girl and took her from the home. And then they took her to the state of Wyoming. Why? Because the Montana Child Protective Services wanted this girl to get gender-affirming care. What is gender-affirming care? Let me remind you, that is where you take a perfectly healthy young boy or girl, put them in front of a doctor who then prescribes them hormones to completely fuck up their system, to turn a girl into a boy and a boy into a girl. It causes sterility. It causes an increase in whatever mental illness they are suffering from. And gender-affirming care also includes a mastectomy. That is the removal of the breasts, or cut your balls off. Turn you from a boy into a girl. Cut your dick right off. This is what is happening, folks. They decided, the Montana CPS, that parents don't have rights and that they can't stop their children from getting sex change operations, gender-affirming care. Folks, war is coming. Whether it's partisan war, whether it's social war, whether it's civil war, it is coming. Look at what these people are doing. I want to tell social workers that there is going to be a court of parental anger. It is going to be a righteous court at that. A righteous court. I tell you, folks, chance favors the prepared mind. Are you prepared for what comes next? Do you have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and your plan? You may think you're safe in Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas. You may think you're safe, but there are people in every corner of this planet who have lost their fucking minds, who have gone off the rail, who are, folks, running off the cliff like a lemming to their certain death. But they want to take all of us with them because they are insane. Are you prepared for that moment? That time where you switch from reality that makes sense to a living nightmare with people gone mad all around you. Are you prepared for the potential of that to happen? The potential. Big cities, no doubt it's going to happen. Sleepy little towns in the middle of nowhere, it can still happen. Chance favors the prepared mind. Aren't you glad you are a prepper?